So I'm going to talk to you about the beneficial approach in mixing API and ESB. This event is a lot about API, this API Days, right? And what we see in what we do at our customers is that we still have to combine this new generation approach of API with the old generation approach of ESB. And I'm going to explain what can be the benefits of using both, because sometimes you can think, okay, there's some overlap and we don't really want to do that. But actually, from a system architecture point of view, that might be interesting. First, just a quick word about Astrakhan, which is the company I created in 2012. We've been publishing a lot of information about what we do with when we create these data and digital integration systems. And actually, this conference is about our return on experience. So to illustrate what I will present today, I will use a return on experience that we have with one of our customers in France, who asked us last year to design part of this information system, which is at the middle of the information system, which we call the middleware, to help them actually achieve several goals and stakes at the same time. The first thing was that they were working, part of their information system was not in the cloud, but was hosted by a partner. And this partner was, let's say, quite of old school, not that reactive. So there were a lot of latency each time they had new needs and new requirements. So they wanted to migrate a part of their information system back from the hosting partner to their internal information system. So they had to deal with the logic of migration of the information system, moving back a part of their assets from this hosting partner to their own integration system. But actually, as you know, migration projects, they're not very easy to legitimate. You need, most of the time, new use cases to get the budget to trigger this kind of initiatives. So they also worked on exposing APIs to some other external partners, business partners in that case, in order to extend their activity, create new business models, and finance in a way this migration part, this migration sub-project, by creating something new for their existing information system. So this project was actually quite tricky because we had to deal with data flows moving from the hosting partner and duplicated with the new architecture of the information system, file transfers, because we had to deal with file transfers. It was not only API and service-based architecture, it was everything at once. So we needed to create something that could be relevant in that context. And we call that a hybrid integration platform because it was part on-premise and partly in the cloud. So that's what we are going to see. So first, this notion of hybrid integration system platform is not something that comes out of people at Astrakhan. It's not something that is exclusive to what we do. Actually, this is something that Gartner talks a lot about, and which makes a lot of sense when you are on the roadmap of digitizing your business. You can see on this slide, actually, on the right-hand side, you see the API part, which is creating new ecosystems, opening your information system. And you can see in gray, on the right bottom part, the information system platform, the backend, the existing systems that you still have to deal with. And some of these backends, sometimes they're not accessible through APIs because they are actually symbolizing the old generation of systems. So that's usually the kind of things we have to deal with when we do this system architecture issues. It's not software architecture. We don't have the full freedom to design the system the way we would like to. We have to deal with all these old generation cohabitating at the same time, and we have to find connectors, and sometimes we find ESB already in place, and we need to integrate ESB with the API because we just can't get rid of the ESB, and that's the point of this talk. So, of course, it's all about creating a mediation layer that will assess all the problems we can have when we try to interface systems. Today, this mediation layer allows a lot of features. that we can see on the right-hand side of this page, authentication, authorization, things that can be provided by an API management platform, things that are sometimes provided already by an ESB. And that's how we start to see what an hybrid integration platform is, actually. Most of the time, we have to deal and combine the features and the advantages of such platforms as API management, enterprise service bus, ETL, extract, transform, load sometimes, manage file transfer, for sure, when there are some. We need to combine all these platforms together to create what we call actually the transverse information system, the information system which is in between, that will be extended thanks to the help of the API management platforms, but which will make even more sense if we can create something that combines use cases, combines formats from data to file to APIs and back to file sometimes. And this is allowed by the fact that most of the time when we start working on this kind of architectures, the customer, they already have actually some middleware layers working. So what they need now is to rationalize these middleware layer, and they need to create some kind of global governance. And global doesn't mean centralized. We don't want to centralize things. We want to be able to make a benefit out of the microservices architecture. We want to use the containers. It's possible today. We are going to see how. But logically, they want to create this kind of layer of mediation that will allow them to govern their whole integration strategy. And today, integration strategies in large corporation is made with files, is made with data, is made with, let's say, old generation services, and made with new generation APIs. And we need to create a global governance for all of this. So it means that this mediation layer that we'll talk about here can be centralized on several components, including API gateways, sometimes collaborating with ESBs when they are here. Sometimes there are no ESB, but it can make sense to have a combined approach of API and ESB gateways together, and API gateways and ESB together, and that's what we are going to see now. We see now current deployment of containerized ESB. I'm now working in Asia, and that's things we do. I'm working for a company which has a strong API development policy, but still they keep on using ESB for different kind of use cases, and they have containerized this ESB because, of course, they have some stakes on distribution and deployment of services that cannot be assessed with tackled with a central ESB. But actually, it works fine, and I would see no other way to build that kind of architecture than making API management and ESB collaborate in that case. So we are actually building complex integration systems. We are building complex mediation layers that are making all these technologies discussing with each other, sharing the features. Of course, API can be fully distributed. ESB, as I said, can be today fully distributed, but MFT, most of the time, they are technologies which are still monolithic, so we cannot all the time we are not able to design those systems the way we would like to. That's as simple as that. But the integration world is made of technologies cohabitating with each other, and we have no choice than doing this actually. And sometimes we also extend the capabilities of such an integration platform, of such a mediation layer, by blending it with master data management, data layers, business process management, all the things that extend the business capability of such a platform in order to make it smarter from a business point of view and create also new services at the information system level. This is all connected with the fact that those integration technologies, they haven't been replacing each other over time. We started in the past doing files, then we made data with ETL, then we made services with ESB. Now we do API management, but none of these technologies have actually disappeared. They are still here, and actually, as long as they are still here, the best way to work with them is to provide some kind of layer which makes sense from a logical point of view. Of course, behind that, we generally have several kinds of technologies working together. They are not most of the time provided by a unique vendor. Some of them are open source, some of them are not. But the idea is to provide a global layer, as I said, of governance, of administration, and of monitoring. Because when we create this kind of system, communication system, the most important thing to do is to have a common monitoring to monitor all the flows and all the interactions with API, with files, and so on. And usually we do that these days with a combination of Elasticsearch and Kibana, because it's the easiest way to proceed when we see all the kind of formats we have to deal with. That's just an example taken from the project I presented you at the beginning of the speech. You see that a list of flows that application needs to exchange with each other, and you can briefly see on this slide that we have several kinds of protocols. We have several kinds of formats. We have some flows that imply the on-premise part of the information system. Some flows are making work the hosting partner, and some of them are completely located in the cloud because all the mediation layer itself has been deployed in the cloud with the IBM managed services. Actually, that's what you see here. So that's the architecture of the project we described. So of course, it's a simplified presentation of such an architecture. And what do we see here? We see the integration services based on App Connect Enterprise, which is actually IBM's ESB. We see here the silo of data, meaning the data which are transferred from the hosting partner on the left-hand side to the central data repository over time, slowly over time, transactional data. They are pushed here by data flows. They are pushed there by files. Sometimes we do a little bit of service, but most of the time these are some kind of flows that each time a customer is created, each time a customer is updated, we update this repository and we make it a full repository, a full 360-degree customer view over time. We do that by integrating the application using the connectors that are provided by the IBM ESB. And then we expose all of this intelligence with the API Connect platform, which is the API solution that IBM provides. And of course, we make some there is some interest of using IBM on both sides of this architecture, because the components actually they are consolidated together and they work fine together. So they are sharing the same the same fabric of technology. A little bit more detailed architecture. It's basically quite the same. What we see here is a little bit is the description of some of the flows that we can that we can see there, and these flows actually they have been codified in order to make the full system completely maintainable. And when we do the monitoring of the flows, because as you can see, the data is actually moving all the time in the information system, we have this kind of codification that allows us to translate the A5 or C1, let's say, into customer flow, customer data flow. Of course, we've been doing modeling of the data. This full system uses canonical formats in order to have one single format at the scale of the information system. And actually, that allows us to not to connect, not to link all the application and all the mediation layer together, but to keep a little bit of loose connection between the application, and then to deploy our migration policy, because that's the way we do things. We don't want to connect applications together, especially when there are new applications coming up and old applications that we want to decommission in the midterm. A few words now about how the project was done. In Agile, I just wanted to say here that when we do API projects, when we do middleware projects, more generally, when we combine architecture and development of orchestrations and flow, it's possible to do it in Agile. Sometimes we don't think we should do that because it's not that business oriented. But if you think a bit about this, the flows themselves, they are manipulating business data, so they've got a business value. And it's actually very valuable to create all these flows over time doing sprints, because you can actually see what we can reuse from an architectural point of view throughout the building of such a construction. Something you should be care about, especially when you are working with the managed services. Most of the time, your attention is set on the fact that you are dealing with the volume of transaction. Be aware that the volume of flows is not the only way to size such kind of platform. They are flow oriented, but actually they are also executing in virtual processes core. And most of the time, the vendors, they do not really pay attention about the sizing of these cores. So that's something you should be aware of. When you're going into production, you may face bottlenecks, and that's very unpleasant to face this kind of bottlenecks. So be careful, because that's usually the last mile, and you discover that in the end, and it's not something you want when you are ready to go live. One last word about the architecture of this kind of platforms. I wanted to conclude this speech showing you the market segments of integration. And I highlighted 5 of them. Those 5 are exactly the ones that are used when we create this kind of hybrid integration platform. So we can see today that when we want to have a global integration policy using APIs, we need data integration tool, we need old school ESBs, we need API, we need new iPaaS also, and we still need files, because most information systems are still working with files, relying on files heavily. Of course, we can see the dynamics of these markets. When the blue part of the histogram is lower than the gray part, it means that this market is decreasing. So we can see that ESB are actually moving a little bit away. So that's the tendency, and that's what we see in this API Days set of conferences. And we see that API are still progressing. But we think that in the middle term, in the long term even, we will still have to combine all these technologies together to provide a full intelligence at the mediation layer level. And we will still need to create this kind of platforms for the benefit of our customers. And we will still need to combine ESB and API for sure in the time frame that, to my opinion, will last for the next 2 or 3 years at least.